She said that she hate me, I hate me too. I can always tell when you're lying, girl, you're see-through. All these miles away, yeah, I just wanna see you. Baby, give me good face, she hit me like seafood. Remember when I saw you? Hi, it's nice to meet you. Know my old girl salty, she just wanna be you. I'm a dog, no Maltese, I don't wanna leave you. Once you're right here, I just don't wanna mistreat you, no. Cause I've been a douchebag before, baby girl, I don't wanna repeat. She just won't please me, she look in my eyes, told me why are you bleeding? And I don't even know how to answer. I take these drugs to my bladder. She says she noticed a pattern. She say I look gorgeous, I tell her I'm flattered. But I hate my reflection when I look at you, all I see is perfection.
Hello, everybody. We're going to get started in about 2 seconds. Sorry for the slightly late start here. As you can see, we're missing one key member of our future team. That's Mr. Ben Burns. He's got some personal stuff he's dealing with today. So our hearts go out to Ben. And riding shotgun with me is Andres and Elle. And they're not typically used to running this, so we'll see if we can get through this. So first of all, let's do a quick mic check. Can you guys all hear me okay? Loud and clear? Give me a thumbs up. Yeah? All right, we're doing all right. Great. Good to see you. I finally changed my name, Andres, so I'm no longer Elle. All right, so we're going to get started here. I'm going to run the webinar, but I'm going to just blast a little bit more music. Let me know in the chat where you're watching from. Hello, Jordan, Nigeria. Oh, let's turn on the transcript for hearing impaired. Thank you very much. Thanks for the reminder, everybody. Saudi Arabia, the Philippines. Oh, yes. Oh, my gosh. It's flying by fast now. It's too much for me to process. San Jose, Bulgaria, Italy. Oh, we got a really international crowd here today. Wonderful, wonderful. All right, let me fade this out. Oh, from Taiwan. My home away from home. All right. So let's get started here. I'm going to share my deck. I have a short presentation to share with you, some things to think about and talk. And we can use the chat to kind of talk to each other. My co-hosts, Andres and Elle, will help me monitor the comments. So if you have a really good comment, they'll pull it out for me. And I believe there's a way for you to ask questions, right? So let's not use the questions for greetings. So let's remove those right away. The Q&A part is for when you hear something and you really want us to answer it, and you guys can help me out here, everybody that's watching, to upvote the questions that you feel are closest to what you want to talk about. All right, so Andres and Elle, please clear those out right now. Let's remove those and we'll get started. I'm going to share my screen here. All right, I'm sharing my screen. I hope you guys can see it. Andres, can you say I can see it or give me some confirmation here?
I can see it.
Beautiful. Thank you. All right. All right. So unfortunately, I'm going to do this in a slightly different style today. And I'm going to do this in a slide and interactive part. We'll try to make this webinar as interactive as possible. Unfortunately, it's because Mr. Ben Burns isn't here with me. Usually we're doing this together. I just want to wish everyone a warm welcome and just talk about the agenda for today. I have about 40 or so slides to share with you, and we're going to be talking about self-sabotaging limiting beliefs and what that even means. And it sounds like a mouthful, self-sabotaging. It's because we don't realize the self-talk that we have, our self-story, the things that live inside our brain are actually influencing our emotions, which then forms our beliefs and values and control or influence what we say and do. So we kind of have to examine that a little bit. So I have a little warm-up exercise for all of you to participate in. So please do this with me, okay? It's really easy. There's no right or wrong answer, but the warm-up exercise is this. I want you to type in the chat. Money is whatever you want to say. Money is what? Let me pull up the chat here. Just type in a couple of words. What is money? It could be a sentence or word. A reminder here, not in the Q&A, everybody. We can read you in the chat. So everybody who's typing this in the Q&A, don't put it there, because we want to keep that clear for questions, for ways for you to interact with me. But money is what? Andres and Al, I want you to participate too, since I can't hear them speak without too much trouble. So let me just look at here. So a lot of people writing freedom, essential, leverage, fuel, necessary, comfort, happiness. Oh, these are very positive. A tool. I like that. That's pretty objective. Time. Money is time. Or then therefore time is money. Very interesting. I like that too. Andres, without thinking about it too much, without being too self-conscious, what is money? Money is what for you?
Opportunities, I would
I
say.
like that. Money is opportunity. Okay. A little unexpected. I like that. And L's last name is Money, so Money is L. We know that.
Yeah, I went
No
straight
lie.
for family. I went for the last name, not what money means to me.
So for you, money is family.
Yeah, money
I love
family.
that.
That's it.
Money. Do you know the source of your last name?
No, someone asked me this before, and I was like, I don't know, but I have met another money family in the UK, so there's a few of us.
Very interesting. I would like for you to investigate this and do an ancestry.com thing and tell us later on, oh, the lineage is traced back to this thing. I don't know if you know this, but for much of history, we only had one name, and then we're given a second name because it's like, I'm Bob John's son, like Thor Odin's son, and then that's how you get that surname, and it kind of sticks. So some people's name is John daughters, or Sarah John's daughter, and they spell it kind of funny, you know. So it's quite interesting. I'd love to find out where your last name comes from because it's on the money right now. All right, so I had to take the liberty of guessing as to what some of you might say. So some of you might say this: money is freedom. You might have said money is evil, or the root of all evil, as it might say. Is that biblical? Money is the root of all evil. And I know that some people have like a really negative relationship with money. There's some pains around that, or they've seen things like my ex-girlfriend, her father gambled, and they were quite wealthy. And so money has a whole different relationship for her. And her father gambled all the way the family's fortune away and put the family in dire straits. So there's the negative emotion surrounding that. And for some, money's a scorecard. It's how we track our success. Like, are we doing well in business, in life? How are we doing? Or is this initiative working? We kind of measure the results of that against money. For some, money is power. That the people who seem to have a lot of power also have a lot of money. And for some, where we try to avoid money, it's because it's responsibility and we don't want too much of it. And what do I mean by that? If you are in a high level position in a company, the reason why you are is you have to make the big decisions. And when they say the buck stops here, that means that when people are being blamed, it goes all the way to the top. And it stops at your door. And you have to make the decisions that no one else can make. And so for some of us, we see that we've experienced it, and we might even be aware of this. And if we've experienced this when we're younger, we might have an aversion to taking on roles of responsibility. And you've also heard the expression, that's why they pay me the big bucks. And do you know why people say that? It's because you make the decisions that no one else wants to make. Let me stop the share here real quick. Do you remember the movie Zero Dark 30? Zero Dark 30. Anybody? That's when the Navy SEALs go in and they hunt Obama. I'm sorry, Obama. Osama bin Laden. Freudian slip there. So they go in and hunt Osama bin Laden, and they're saying, like, we don't have all the information. You know, a boy spotted Osama in the courtyard or one of his wives or something like that. And so they tipped the CIA, and they had to make a decision. Do they want to risk American lives to go in and raid a compound and capture and kill Osama bin Laden? And so could you imagine if you were in that position as the president of the United States to say, like, what do we do? And as it's portrayed in this kind of dramatization of real events, the agent said, I'm sure he's there. And that gave the president enough confidence to say, let's go in. So it was pretty wild. So that's why they say the buck stops here. You have to make the big decisions. Okay, let me go back to sharing. All right. So money is responsibility for some people. Here's another way of looking at money is the result of doing good, of giving value to other people. And I like this one a lot. This has a whole different spin and relationship on money, because the way I see it is I'm paid in proportion to how much impact I make on a client's business, how I'm able to help someone grow. And I like that. So in my younger days, when I was like 20-ish and I was out of school, the kinds of problems I solved were mostly visual. Like, that's why I self-identify as a graphic designer. And as I grew in age and experience, the kinds of problems and impact I was making was much different. For example, when we were charged with launching the Audi A7 car globally, that's a big deal. It's the introduction of something that has billions of dollars behind it in terms of research and development and production. And if we screw up our job, then it's going to put the company in a bad light. That was a lot of responsibility. Or when you're working on the music video for a band or an artist that you love, you don't want to taint the experience for other people by creating a video that sucks. So for me, money is the result of doing good for others. And in fact, it's the ethos behind the future. We're an education company. Most of what we do is free. Today's free. The videos that we produce on the internet, mostly free. The only way we're able to sustain ourselves is through the pro group or through courses that we sell. And that's how you guys support us, so we can support you. So I'm going to ask, oops, what did I do here? What is your relationship with money? Your personal, individual relationship with money. And I'm going to ask you to think back in time, because we're going to go back to the future or back to the past. We're going to travel back in time. And I want you to think about your earliest memories around money, transaction. It was probably a parent dealing with something with money. So if your parents struggle to make rent, maybe money is stress. And you might not be aware of it, but when you're a child, you pick up on the emotional state of your parents, even though you don't fully understand what's going on, making ends meet. Perhaps, and I've done this, cutting coupons to save money at the grocery store, just to extend your dollar a little bit more. Or perhaps you lived in a completely different household, and your memories around money are totally different, whereas it was abundant. And your parents did really well. Maybe they're doctors or lawyers, and you're living in some kind of high society lifestyle. And maybe you witnessed something else. I'm not sure. I would love for Elle or Andres to share something about your earliest memory, your relationship with money, to see if we can connect any threads there. So, Elle and Andres.
Yeah, I can jump in. I remember being a kid and always relying on my parents. Like, anytime I wanted anything, it was always how I had to justify that to them and ask them to pay for it for me. And I remember thinking, I just can't wait for one day to be independent and be able to buy things by myself, not have to run that past anyone. And I think I really carry that into now, because when it comes to birthdays and Christmas, my brother and sister always have a full list of everything they've wanted through the year that they haven't bought themselves. And I have nothing, because if I need it and I really want it, I will buy it. You know, I justify it to myself. I make that purchase decision. So when it comes to Christmas and stuff, I'm like, I have everything I need. I don't need anything from you. And I think that was always a place that I wanted to put myself in. I didn't want to have to depend on anybody else. And I know that's super privileged position, and I'm very happy with where I am. But yeah, that's kind of my first memories of money.
Oh, this is wonderful. Al, I didn't know this about you. And now I can see some actions that you've taken in your life. I don't think what you're saying is super privileged at all. Whereas your siblings were expecting things, you kind of put it on yourself. If I want something, I'm going to go and get it myself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be more reliant than I need to be. And It's quite interesting, because I don't know what it's like in the UK, but in America, you can only do some strange jobs when you're underage. Otherwise, you have to wait until you are 15 or 16 to get your worker's permit because of child labor laws. So the things that you can do as a kid are to mow lawns, deliver the newspaper, and sell cookies and candy or something like that at the store. And those are not great economic opportunities for a young person. Was that the case for you in the UK?
Yeah, I remember when we were like 14-ish, that's when those labor laws, they really started pushing them because they realized it was more like pub jobs. So people would work as like servers in pubs, and it would be like your little village pub. So no one would really know that you were underage, and they'd just kind of, it'd be like, oh, it's okay. You know, we're paying them £3.50 an hour or something. So it doesn't really matter. And then when I remember as I got older and minimum wage would increase by 50p an hour or something ridiculous, and I was on like 4.75, I was like, wow, I'm so rich now. I can't believe they pay me this per hour. And then if they sent me home like 30 minutes early, I'd be like working out in my head like, oh, I've lost like £2 something now. It was so ridiculous.
That's wonderful. Andres, I just want to double check you. I guess you're live highlighting whoever's speaking. Is that right? Who's doing
No,
that?
but I can do that.
Yeah, somebody needs to do that so we're focused on the right things as we're speaking. So if I'm on a screen for too long and Elle or you are speaking, you should highlight yourself while we're doing this, okay?
You got
All right,
it.
so
I'll do
we'll
that.
just say you're the driver here, and I will try to minimize how many things I ask you to do since it does require some focus and attention around that. Okay, wonderful. So Elle, that explains a lot about you, I think, in terms of like you coming out to America to do your internship with us and then living abroad and then moving to Canada. So you're a very independent, free-spirited person because maybe your earliest memory, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm being a psychotherapist here or play one on TV, is that these roots early on, these ideas that you've told yourself in terms of, if I want something, go out and get it. Don't expect anything from anybody. I'm going to be my own person, super independent. And that also says a lot to me because you live so far away from home. And we're talking about money equals family because your last name is Money. And it's fascinating to me. Is there, do you see anything else there that we can pull apart from this early relationship with money?
Yeah, good question. I feel like, yeah, it was always, I wanted to really be independent, and I was so worried about not being able to afford the lifestyle that I wanted because of how I like grew up. Money wasn't a stress necessarily. You know, we got better off as I grew up, which helped. But I always remember thinking like, if I want to like live this kind of lifestyle, I need to make sure I'm always setting myself up. And my parents always taught me to be very smart with money as well. I remember once I got a train ticket because I didn't pay the full amount. And I stayed on the train a little bit early, and they fined me like £300. I remember thinking at the time, oh my God, I don't have this money. I'm at uni. What can I do? And I had to speak to my dad about it. And I was so embarrassed to ask him for that money, but I was like, I have to pay it or they're going to take me to court, and I don't have that kind of money. I was just forever grateful for that. And I guess, I put myself in that position of, I don't want to have to depend on anybody else, which I guess helped me in the freelance career as well. You know, you always got to make sure you're prioritizing money and knowing what you're worth too, because you got to afford all the things that you need in life. It's not just about providing that service. You know, you have to be able to sustain yourself too.
Yeah, so this is fascinating. So you were fined £300 because you rode on the train for longer than you're supposed to and you didn't have a ticket?
And I think I saved myself like £7, which is the worst thing.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Yes, this is when they say like penny wise, pound foolish,
Yeah.
right? Because it's a British expression, right? It's a pound. So you're chasing the penny and you're trying to not spend a few pennies. And then unfortunately you get zapped with that. That happens a lot too. Like when we go to park our car and we don't pay the meter because we're like, oh, I'm going to be in and out 75 cents. I don't need to do this, or it's $1. You come back, you have a $250 ticket and you think I could have parked there 250 times and not even sweat this, but that's what happens. And we all do this. We all do this. We kind of in the moment make a poor decision. And if we keep getting away with it, it reinforces that we can continue to do this. And then when we get zapped, we're like, oh, lesson learned, hopefully. So your dad bailed you out on that £300, right? Because that would take you a really long time probably to earn back.
Because I wasn't working at uni. Yeah, I was one of those that was just like, I'm focused on my education right now. I'll make the money when I finished.
Yeah. Side question. Did you ever pay your dad back?
No, shall I offer? I'll message him today and be like, you know
Yeah.
that ticket that you paid like
Yeah.
10 years ago?
I still owe you, Dad. And thanks for
Yeah.
bailing me out.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Andres, I promise not to put you on the spot, so you can pass on this, or I'd like to ask you, what was your earliest relationship with money? You're muted.
Great question, Chris. So I remember as a very young child that my parents put me to work as soon as I could reach the lawnmower. So that's how I remember making my first dollar. So my parents knew people that owned apartment buildings, so they made me go there and start mowing their lawns, and then open up my bank account and start saving right away. So that was the process of
Wow.
my childhood. So work, save, work, save, work, save,
Work
and then
safe.
spend whenever you had enough to buy something that you really wanted.
So Evie is saying she had that experience as well. So I have a strong visual, like you on your tiptoes holding the lawnmower like this, barely able to push it. And you know, lawnmowers are not for children. If you're not careful, you could lose body parts to a lawnmower, like fingers and all kinds of stuff, right? And they're not that easy to push. So do you remember how old you were approximately?
I was a short kid, so it's hard to pinpoint it, Chris.
You're
But I would say
I was
probably
at
like
least 17 or 18, Chris. I promise you.
7 years old or something like that.
7 years old.
Yeah.
And when they told you, boy, we're gonna put you to work, you gotta go mow some lawns. What was your feeling around that?
Oh, it's hard to remember. It makes me think memory lane.
Yeah.
I can't really think of a good definitive answer, but it maybe a little bit
Okay.
of excitement because I'd be able to. I felt like I was
Really?
becoming a grown up in the sense.
Oh.
So I was like, oh, I'm becoming a grown up now. I'll be making my own money. So that's probably what came to mind.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah.
Because if I tell my children, I need you to go mow the lawn, and they're not young anymore, like, oh, Dad, you're just getting in the way of my video games, and none of the kids are doing this. They're out and having fun and buying like Legos and doing all kinds of stuff, because that's the kind of neighborhood we live in. Kids don't have responsibilities. And so by context and comparison, they're growing up with a totally different relationship with work. Like I asked my son to go and bag a bag of fertilizer that broke. And he's like, well, I want it. And he comes back after like 15 minutes of just scooping it up. It's not a big deal. Doesn't smell great. And he's like, oh, so hard, Dad. I'm like, boy, you just worked for 15 minutes. He's like, oh, it's at least 30 minutes. I'm like, no, I was watching. I promise you it was not that much work. And you did it in the shade and everything was fine. So we all have different relationships. And so it sounds to me like both of you understood the value of work, earning your way in the world. And I think what was neat about your situation, Andres, was your parents actually allowed you to take the money and put it in your bank account. So you see your work, the money, and then going into an account. Whereas some parents are like, that's what you have to do. It's how you have to contribute to the family. And it's just a chore. Every free minute you have to just contribute to the family. So I like that. So it seems like both very positive relationships with money. For Elle, in a moment of stress, was saved by money because your dad had it. And so we start to unlock these ideas about money can be empowering. Money can be free or freedom. Money allows us to do the certain things that we want. And there's a strong relationship there. I love that. Okay. So we're seeing all kinds of comments. So when you have a really good question, like, is there a framework for this? I don't know, guys. I'm just winging it this way. I have some ideas. We'll see where we get to. So important questions, drop them in the Q&A, and just conversationally, drop it in chat. All right, I'm going to go back to sharing my presentation here, quote unquote. All right, here we go. Share. All right, we're back. All right. So what I wanted to do was to get you all to revisit the past, because the past has a connection to the present. So some of us don't have the kind of strong positive memories around money and work. And so they start to influence the way we think and the way we feel. And this is where we get into trying to unlock some of our limiting beliefs around this. Okay. So I think we can pretty safely say our past, our experiences from our childhood, from our formative years. That's why they're called formative, because they form who you are, how you think, and patterns of behavior, that their past will predict your present. That's a pretty safe statement, right? And if you disagree with me, just write it in the chat. I disagree, and here's why. And I'll circle back to that. So Andres and L, if you see a comment, actually I just signed L to read the comment since Andres will be focused on highlighting and running the production here. If you see a really strong argument about why that's not true, just save that for me. Just copy paste that into a document and then we'll circle back to it. So if the majority of you are with me here, the past can influence and predict the present today, then the present must have some connection to the future. Did that animate? Let me try that again. There we go. That's what I wanted to do, right? And so if we want to know where we're going to be in the future, not only do we have to understand where we are today, but we have to go back in time and understand these relationships and start to unpack the meaning behind it. So all this stuff is to build up to this moment where these are patterns of behavior that were formed unconsciously or subconsciously in our past that we need to become aware of. I've heard this conversation before, it described this way about what is meditation. Meditation isn't sitting in silence, purging all thoughts of your mind. In fact, or the suppression of feelings and emotions. Meditation is the ability to observe one's own feelings, thoughts, and emotions so that we can have greater influence on how we want to respond. And so a lot of today is going to be to ask you to have an awareness of your relationship, the words that you choose, the feelings and emotions surrounding the topics that we're talking about. And then asking yourself as a witness to your own mind, is this helpful to me? Is this how I want to behave? Is this how I want to live my life? So let's talk about this. I recently put out a tweet that got some attention about the vicious loop or the vicious cycle, right? So let's talk about this loop. So if we have a poor relationship with how we feel about what we can contribute to the world, if we have low self-esteem, we have a low opinion of ourselves, then we start to tell ourselves a story that's not helpful. It's referred to as negative self-talk. Like when you do something like when you go out and you're thinking about going to a party and you tell yourself, oh, no one's going to want to talk to me. I'm always so weird. I'm uncomfortable around people. And you say things like that. And then what happens is it starts to manifest itself into reality. And so eventually you stop going to social functions. You stop meeting with people. And if you've not heard this term before, just make a note of it. Just write down negative self-talk. And every time you have a negative thought in your mind, that is part of your negative self-talk. And it comes from you having a low opinion of yourself. And unfortunately, there's this is connected to parenting, and I don't want to go there today, and we'll examine that on a different day. But basically, as a young person, all of your strongest beliefs are shaped by mostly your parents, either your mom or your dad, an older sibling, or somebody that was influential in your life. And then what happens is we tend to parent ourselves the way we were parented. So if mom or dad were always saying, oh, you're just so clumsy, you're just so dumb, like, why can't you be like Susie? Why can't you be like Bob? You never do anything good, right? They keep saying that to you, and eventually that's how you talk to yourself. But instead of it sounding like your parent, it's in your own voice. So now it becomes indistinguishable from what you think your real thoughts are and what was put in there. Dr. Jordan Peterson talks about this. Put his politics aside for a second. He says that most of us, our thoughts and opinions are not even our own. That over 90% of it is from our parents, from books that you've read, from music that you've listened to, from movies that you've watched. They're not even your own thoughts. Okay. Our focus really today is about money. So I'm going to try and bring it back there. So we have low self-esteem. We start speaking to ourselves in a negative voice. It feels so comfortable to us that we can't even recognize it's not even our true voice. And it creates this kind of scarcity mindset where there's not enough to go around. We're always competing with everyone. If I win this job, that means there's one less job to win. And if I turn away this client, I'll have one less potential opportunity to work. And that's going to diminish my opportunity to make money in the future. Another client will not find me and will not get another opportunity. That's what the scarcity mindset sounds like. Does it sound familiar to any of you that are watching right now? Especially when it comes to working with new clients. So for example, if you're on one of these sites and the client puts out a brief and says, we have $2,000 to do this. And instead of challenging them on the $2,000, you're like, if I come in at $1,850, I'll underbid other people and I'll more likely get the work. I'll just underprice them. And you think I'm making this kind of stuff up? I'm not. Because whenever I post something around money on Twitter, there's always someone who's like, oh, I'll do it for less. That's too much. I'll do it for less. Logos are easy to design. I'll do it for less. That's where the scarcity mindset comes in. And it leads to us then, therefore, pricing and lowering our value. Pricing lower, decreasing our value to the world. And when you charge less, what happens? Well, you have to make some compromises. Sorry, it's a helicopter passing by. So you have to make compromises. Why? Because now, in order for you to take on this client for less money, you have to do it in less time. That makes sense, right? So if you're going to charge $10,000 and the client says, well, I only have $1,500, what can you do for me? Well, I'll give you what I can do in a day. That means you skip some essential parts of your process. You might skip research. You might not do your due diligence. You might not refine what it is that you're doing because there just isn't time. And then what happens? Your work gets worse. It's like it's sloppy. And then the client 2 months later calls you up and says, hey, Jim, you remember how you made that logo for me? Actually, it looks just like this other logo. I've already printed business cards, T-shirts. I've repainted my truck. I changed the sign on our building. And it looks just like this other thing. And why would you do that? And your only answer was because I skipped an essential process of doing research. How does that make you feel now? Probably terrible. So the cycle begins again. And this time, instead of having the same amount of self-esteem, it's actually less than it was before because now you feel even worse about what you're doing. You see the problem here? This is why it's a horrible loop to be caught in. So what the heck are you going to do now? Now, some people say, well, just have high self-esteem. Not so easy. So what we can do, though, is we can influence our thinking by doing something different, by taking action. So if we change the action, we're going to see what happens, all right? So instead of charging less, we might try this concept of charging more. What? Yeah. Even though you have no belief, even though you have negative self-talk, even though you still live in a scarcity mindset, if we change our action, we can reverse the direction of the loop. Watch what happens now. So here we are. So when I charge more, it creates an abundance mindset. We are no longer afraid of the clients walking away. We actually charge more to drive clients away because we only want to work with clients who value what we do, allow us to drive or lead the engagement, and that is a good fit for our services and our skill set. So instead of taking on every single thing that comes in the door, oh, you illustration? Sure, I'll do that. Oh, you want me to design a logo? I can do that. And I can take your pictures and I can edit the video. Oh, you need social media content? I could do that too. That's part of the scarcity mindset because we're so afraid another opportunity is not going to come. Or if this client finds someone else to do this, they'll never come back to us. But by virtue of charging more, when we charge more, the clients have to make a decision. And what they do is they vote. Do I believe in you? Do I believe in your skill set? Do I believe you can help me? Do I trust you? Well, they're putting more money against this. That means they must believe in you. Otherwise, they wouldn't hire you. So what's happening now? Look at this. Everything is changing. Wow, the clients paid me $3,000 above what I normally charge. I must be doing something right. They must like my work. They must believe in me. You know what? Actually, for the last 5 years, all the work I've done has got me to this point. That's pretty cool. What does that do for your esteem? I feel much better about myself now. You know, that investment I made in school, the books that I read, the thousands of hours of practice of working on my craft, it's got me to this moment. This is awesome. Well, since they paid me more, I have more time to work on things. In fact, I don't do this very specific skill, but I can now afford to hire someone to help me. So the work gets better. Because you know why? I don't have to make as many compromises. I can sit on this for a couple of days and come back to it and look at it again and say, you know, I spotted some problems. I want to fix that. So you all get to make this decision today. Do you want to be stuck in the vicious loop or building up towards the virtuous loop? We can see where this is going, right? Now, I'm making a logical argument to an emotional problem. I realize the problem here. How do we defeat emotion and feeling with logic? It's very difficult to do. I'm a creature of logic. So I argue logically because that's how my brain understands the world. But maybe you're in the audience and you're like, I know it sounds so easy for you to say this, Chris, but what am I going to do? So I know you're unconvinced. So let's try a different tactic, if you will. Let's do that. But before I go on and talk about the next part of this webinar, I want to pause here. Let me stop the share. Okay. Elle, anything that I need to highlight or process either in the Q&A, the questions, or in the chat?
Yeah, I feel like Paul has had a real life experience with this that a lot of people can relate to. So he said he's been working on his own for over 20 years and found that other people put value on what he offers. So sometimes when he really needs money, he'll have to drop fees in order to get paid, right? And that's something that a lot of people do because they need the money. And that was something you talked about in the scarcity mindset too, of just taking projects because you need them. And he said that means that they're branded as a budget designer. And so it's harder to get out of that cycle then. So what are your thoughts on if you do need to take those projects?
Okay, this is wonderful. I'm going to answer that in a little bit because I actually have slides. There's something I'm going to do to address this. And Paul, you're spot on about this. I'll give you a really short answer, but then hopefully by the time I finish my presentation, my talk today, you'll have the answer. Okay. So we think I need to make money. I need to make money. And the only way to make money is to take whatever you can get. But then you're voluntarily deciding that I want to head into the vicious cycle. You're choosing to do that. The way that I process I need to make money is a little different. So when I say I need to make money, I start to ask myself, what can I do that is more valuable to people so I can charge more? Let's look at it this way. Let's say we all need to make $1,000. We have $1,000 financial gap, you and me, Paul. And you say, you know what? Usually I charge $500. And if I did 2 jobs, I could get there to $1,000. That's wonderful. But clients don't seem to be coming, and I'm nervous. I'm going to spook the next client. So I'm going to lower my fees. For round numbers, let's say you lower your fees to $250. And so now you have to work twice as hard. You have to do 4 jobs to get to $1,000. And that's what you're going to do to yourself. I, on the other hand, I'm charging $500. I'm like, I don't have any clients right now. What can I do to get to this 1,000? So I start obsessing over what someone would be happy to pay me $1,000 to solve for them. Excuse me. Who would be happy to just, with joy, give me $1,000? What do I need to do? Who do I need to become? So for a while, I don't have any money. And Paul's just jamming away, doing the work, affirmed in his belief that this is how you get there. And I start reading books. I take some courses. I find a mentor. I redesign my website. I work on a couple of spec projects. And all of a sudden, in a couple of months, people start looking at me differently. I look at myself differently. And now I'm going to charge not $500. I'm going to charge $3,000 because I'm at a different tier now. And this becomes like the fable, the tortoise and the hare. So the hare rushes out to do the work and feels like they're getting ahead. And for a time, they are getting ahead. So Paul's pocketed, maybe he's booked 8 clients. That puts him at $2,000. He's feeling pretty good. He's able to sustain himself. In the meantime, what I'm doing is I'm going on a diet. I'm cutting back all my expenses, unnecessary expenses. I'm investing in myself. But what happens is when a client books me, I make $3,000. And then they book me again, or a different client books me, and now I'm doing $6,000, $9,000, $12,000, and Paul doesn't know what to do now. His solution was to do it for less. My solution is to do it for more. But not just arbitrarily say, I'm going to just start charging more. I have to start working on closing the skill gap between the value that I want to charge and the skill that I currently have. Okay, I know, Paul, you can't talk to me right now, but just sit on that for a second. I'm going to go back to sharing my deck in a second. Elle, is there any other question that we need to address before I move on?
Yeah, you kind of addressed how to like overcome that thing of, yes, you need to believe in yourself to start charging more. So if someone's like, okay, I'm ready to start increasing my rate, a few people have asked in a different way, is there some kind of formula they should follow of how much extra to charge, or how they decide how to increase their rate?
Yes. When you increase your rates to existing clients, there's a range in which you can do it before they start like, what the heck had happened to you? When you change your prices to someone who's never worked with you, they don't know any other reality, so it'll be very easy for you to do. And so the advice generally is change your prices with all new clients. And this is how, in the words of Blair Enns, we can rebuild our agency one new client at a time. I think implementing value pricing says come up with 3 attributes in which you can determine if a client's good for you. It could be about budget, like they always pay well, they pay on time, they give you a lot of creative freedom, they're a pleasure to work with, they don't have too many rounds of revisions, whatever your 3 attributes are. And Ronald Baker talks about this. He says, go in and then grade all of your clients on the same scale, 1 to 5, 1 to 10, whatever it is that you want. And you'll quickly find out, which will confirm your intuition anyways, because people already know who their best clients are. You'll find out who your worst clients are. They tend to take up all of your time. They don't pay you anything, and they drive you crazy. But we have to take responsibility for that, right? Because we invited them into our studio. We said we will do this work, and we accepted their money. So therefore, we're bound to deliver something to them. So what we need to do is we need to fire some of the bottom clients to make room for new clients. The ones that won't know what you used to charge, and they'll just think this is just your price. So a rule of thumb when I'm changing prices is not to change it by 10 or 15%. I would say 25 to 75 or even 200%, because you don't want to make these small incremental changes. Like, to tie it back to Elle's story earlier about getting paid $375 an hour when it went to $450, she's like, wow, I'm going to get rich. This is amazing. I would just try to find a job, a service to provide to people where I could charge $8 an hour instead of $375 or $4.25 or $5.50. I would just try to make these bigger jumps, and you'll start to see something. Now, I'm spacing on the person's name, but I bumped into somebody. This is a real story, real life, just recently. I was in Las Vegas, and this gentleman came up to me. He's like, dude, I had some misgivings about you because of the way that you speak, the tone and style. It just rubbed me the wrong way. I'm paraphrasing here. These are not literally his words. He goes, but eventually I got over it. And, I got to tell you, I now make twice as much money as I used to. I'm like, what happened? He goes, I just listened to you, man. You said change your rates. So I changed my rates. And the client that called me up was a client I've had for a long time. And I told them that here are my new rates. And I was fully prepared to defend, justify, argue, and deal with them because this is going to be a shock to them. And instead of them saying anything, they just said, okay. And he was so blown away. Maybe the clients had been waiting for him to ask for more money because he's underpriced relative to the market. And armed with this newfound confidence, he was able to continue to increase his price until it got to double what he used to charge. He works half as much. Or if he wants to work the same amount, he makes twice as much. Less stress. Most of us probably could agree that if the client gave you more time, the work would improve. Not always true, but we at least believe that. That if we had the time to put the care, craft, whatever attention into our work, it will improve. And one way to do that is to be able to get more from the client to allow you to put in that care. And what happens when that work is good, more people want that from you, and you get to charge a new price again if you want. So you don't necessarily have to change your belief, your self-talk, to be able to charge more. All you have to do is do what I tell you to do. Quite literally. You have to have some faith. Faith in me, faith in yourself. You just do it and you follow through. So if you used to say I charge $100 an hour or I charge $2,000 for a logo, raise it to $2,500. Raise it to $3,000 with no new information. You don't need to understand why it works, how it works. All you have to do is say, my fees for doing work like this for clients like you is $3,000. And they'll either say yes or no. They might ask you some questions. And we're not going to get into to this today, but you don't even explain why. He's like, those are my prices. If you want to work with me, I'd be happy to do the work, but that's the price. Just because. You don't need to explain yourself. In fact, I discourage you from explaining. Okay? All right. So let's get back into it. Let me share my screen. I have a little bit more time today, so in case this goes a little bit longer, I'm not stressing out over that. Okay. So I know many of you are still not convinced, and so I want to introduce you to this concept. It's called inversion thinking. And I heard about it from Alex Hormozi. And Hormozi was talking about Charlie Munger, and he said that the human mind is much more skillful at finding out what's wrong with an idea. And so if you want to find a new way, all we have to do is think the opposite and then let our negative oriented mind find the problems with that, and then that'll lead us to the positive. So it's called inversion thinking. That's why the word is upside down. So I've been telling you for some time, for the last 8 years, to charge more. And the weird thing is, designers, creative types, push back on me. In parts of the UK, they hate me because they think I'm some kind of blasphemer. They think it's a money grab, that I'm telling people with no skill to go and charge more. So I'm taking a different approach today, everybody. Totally radically different approach. And I'm going to probably do a whiteboard on this. So you're seeing the rough sketch of a concept. So from this point forward, I'm going to tell you to charge less. All right? I want all of you to charge less. And we'll see if the inversion thinking works here. So I'm going to reduce my philosophy down to an absurd idea in my mind. And maybe instead of trying to convince you to charge more, I'm going to convince you to charge less. And then you'll convince yourself why that is a dumb idea. Does that make sense, everybody? Okay, so I've talked about this many times before, about the teachings of the Win Without Pitching Manifesto. So this is the anti-Win Without Pitching Manifesto. We're going to call this the Charge Less Manifesto. Everybody on board? We're going to learn how to charge less. So we have certain rules, certain beliefs that are core to how we operate. So number one, the belief is this: we get more clients and make more money by charging less. That's right. If we charge less, more people will hire us. And through volume, we'll make more money. It makes perfect sense, right? So this point forward, everybody, let's just do as much work as possible for as many clients as possible. Anybody, you have a pulse and $1 in your pocket or a pound, I'm going to work with you because I can make more money this way. What could be wrong with this thinking? I don't know. Help me out, chat people. I see 445 people here. What could be wrong with this? How can you disprove this? Like, we get more clients and make more money by charging less. I see some funny laughing faces now. See? Well, what's one problem? I see it right now. Aren't you going to burn out by doing all this work? How can you keep up with this? So people think there's an infinite amount of creative energy in your body. There is not. I'm telling you right now. I've seen it happen before. I see former students 5 years out of school, a shell of who they used to be because they're working 60, 70 hours through the weekend because of the place that they worked at. They put on a lot of weight. They have dark circles under their eyes. Their skin looks terrible. They're probably losing their hair. They're stressed out. They're not taking good care of themselves. Their relationships have suffered. Maybe somebody that was dating them has left them at this point already. Because now they just have to keep doing more and more. So if a good thing is good, we just do more of it, right? So if doing or taking on more clients for less money is working, why don't we do more work for even less money? If it's a good idea, we should just do more of it. So instead of charging $2,000 for the work that you're doing, charge $1,000. In fact, charge $200, charge $10. You get more clients. Just keep doing it. What's the sentiment in the chat right now, Elle? Can you keep up with what's going on?
Yeah, I was just replying to a lot of the questions as well in the Q&A. But yeah, everyone is literally, it's funny how when you lay it out like this, everyone's like, whoa, no, don't do that. Yet we get stuck in it so easily ourselves.
Right? And unfortunately, Mario's like, Chris just described me with a crying face emoji, laughing. So I'm now no longer going to be telling you what to do in a way that's good for your life and for your business. I'm only going to tell you to do stupid things. I'm going to tell you the opposite of what I believe. Then you can convince yourself. Because I'm getting tired of convincing you. Okay, I have a couple more points there. It's better to take on a low-paying job than to do nothing at all. I mean, well, we can't make any money. I have nothing else better to do. Right? So anything is better than nothing. Makes perfect sense. And so free time is overrated, everybody. Why would I want free time? I can rest when I'm dead. So I'd rather take anything. Oh, I charge $500 to do this. Oh, you only have 50? No problem. I was going to watch Stranger Things a series finale, but I don't want to do that. I've got these books I was supposed to read, but books are boring. I was going to attend a pro call with Chris, but I'm busy doing the work, so can't attend that call. So what could be wrong with this? Free time is overrated. I'd rather be doing something. Plus, I'll just get all this experience, right? I can put this stuff on my portfolio. Let me just take it on. So when we go to visit your website, there's like dog grooming services. You repair roofs. You can snake drains. Oh, and you design websites. So it's better to show a variety, a diversity of work. Because, that's what really wins clients. Because when they come looking for a website, they need to see that you can do dog grooming and repair roofs and snake drains. That shows you're a really well-rounded human. That's why it's better just to keep busy. I think some people are enjoying this a little bit too much. Sideways splitting laughing. Okay. So again, I'm going to pause. Elle, tell me what the sentiment is to manifesto rule number 2.
Yeah, everyone is kind of, dying at these. It's so good. Yeah. And it's just like, it shows, it's funny how we offer so much within our industry and we think that makes us look really good. But as soon as you're like, oh, I'm a mechanic and I clear drains and I also design websites, suddenly that's like, hang on a sec, that's too much.
I don't know why they draw the line there.
Yeah.
You know how many websites I go to where quite literally I cannot figure out what the heck this person does because like photography, event planning, keynote presentations, websites, logo design. I write ad copy, social media marketing and management. And literally this is kind of what I'm seeing. No exaggeration here. And then you click on each one of these things and it may or not have even an example. Not even one example. or the example I see is so bad, I'm like, wow, it can't be this. Cannot be the thing that they're selling because this is so bad. But they do this. I repair planes. I'm going to add that to the list. That is a very unique skill. All right.
Brilliant. Yeah, how much do we talk about niching down as well in the pro group? It's you bring it up all the time. It's so
Nonstop.
important. Mm-hmm.
Nonstop. But, I'm taking a different approach. I told my wife about this idea and she was like laughing so hard. And there's a story behind why I'm doing this. I first brought up my notebook and I started writing the anti-manifesto, right? And it was really not working. And I told her, and I'm not going to tell you who, I thought about one of my friends who runs a design business, and I just pretended to be him. And I started writing, and the ideas were flowing so fast then. Because everything that came out of his mouth, all his core beliefs, are represented here today. He would argue with me. I said, why are you spending your time putting the promo in a package and packaging it all up yourself? Shouldn't you hire an intern, production assistant to do this for you? Yeah, well, I got nothing else to do. I mean, I'd rather be doing this. I mean, you don't understand. I was raised to believe in hard work and the value of work, Chris. And I don't mind doing this. I actually enjoy doing this. I'm like, have you read that book I loaned you? No? Right. So there's an emphasis on keeping busy. That there's virtue in just doing work all the time. No matter if it contributes to your self-development. Okay, number 3, the anti-manifesto. Here, this one's going to hurt some people. If your work is good enough, you won't have to market yourself. The clients will just find you. So all the people who are busy on social doing content marketing, they're obviously not any good because that's all they're doing. I bet you their work sucks. So stop yapping on social. Just improve your skills. Because the better I get, the more clients will want what it is that I do. I don't need to do marketing because good work markets itself. What could be wrong with this kind of thinking? What do you think? How could this go wrong? I just keep working on my work, right? I'll redo the mock-ups. I'll refine the topography. I just keep doing that. But then how come the phone's not ringing? How come I'm not getting new business inquiries? What could be the problem, everybody? How do clients find you if you don't meet them at least halfway? How many of you know someone who's more talented than you? By not a little bit, but on an exponential scale better than you. And they're complaining that they don't have any work. That people of lesser talent than them have more clients and more opportunities. Why is that? Can't seem to figure it out. And so here's the truth. The truth is you have to have good work. Having good work is the cost of entry. So if you don't do good work, most of what I tell you will not work for you. But in degrees of goodness, the amount of time that you spend getting your work from good to like extra good or like amazing, most people can't tell the difference. Amongst your friends, your peers, maybe your former professors in school, they could probably tell, but they don't represent your customer. Your customer actually knows very little bit about what it is that you do. And how do I know that? Because if they knew how to do what you do, why would they call you? My Tesla's in the shop. There's a problem with the battery. I don't know the first thing about batteries and how those cars even run. They're going to estimate to me, hold your breath for a second here, to replace the battery. It's $25,000 to do that. I know. So I'm not going to do that. because that's the price of a new car, a different car, but it's the price of a new car. But I'm only saying that to tell you, I don't know what I'm doing. That's why I'm reliant on this person. They could make their showroom a little cleaner, their tech's a little bit more professional, but they don't have to, because you know why? I don't know where else to take my Tesla to get the battery fixed but a Tesla dealer, an authorized Tesla shop. They're the experts. I don't know what I'm doing. You know, upstairs on my roof, we have lights that are gone out. I can't figure out why they won't turn on. Probably a short. I have some suspicion. But again, when the general contractor or the electrician comes by, they don't need to sell me on they have 14 years of extra experience on electrical engineering and they either can fix the problem or they can't. But so who do I call to get help? I call the people that I know, the people I like, and the people that I trust. So if the electrician is so busy getting another degree or practicing even more so that the world's greatest electrician, but they haven't done work for anybody, and they're not out there, not on top of mind, how do I even know to call them? I would just call who I know. So the number one rule of marketing to build know, like, and trust is to get known. You have to work on getting known. This doesn't become a side thing. It doesn't become a point of frustration for you. It becomes an essential part of your business. When you change your mind on this, your business will change. And to pull a phrase that Errol Garrison likes to use a lot, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. If we have a negative relationship about marketing, we won't do it. We'll do it kind of half-assed. We'll try, and our efforts will only be used to confirm our bias. It's confirmation bias. We don't think marketing works. So what we do is we make things that don't work. And then when we get feedback that it doesn't work, we're like, see, I told you. I told you it's not going to work. That's our self-story. That's our limiting belief. I got back from the Grow with Video conference, and one speaker after the other said, you are in the media marketing business. When you realize that, you will really grow. Gary Vaynerchuk said, we're all media companies. Every single one of us. Because before I can like you, before I can trust you, I have to know that you exist. Okay. Let me go back to the anti-manifesto here. Number 4, you must protect your secret sauce. Do not show people how to do what you do. Don't teach them. Don't share your frameworks or your process. Don't show them any of that, because if you do, you'll be creating mini clones of yourself. I've had amazing artists on the show. And what they do is they tease you with their creative process, but they don't want to teach you. So it's the wrong T. They tease but don't teach. They cover up the parts that people want to know. How the heck did you just do that? And their argument is, I don't want to show people how to do that. Okay. So here's the tease. So here's the weird thing. I mean, some of you believe this. Actually, quite a lot of you believe this. Where does this come from? It comes from you being scared. The scarcity mindset is driving your action. Because you believe you are easily replaced. That if someone knows your technique, the tools or plugins that you use, you're nothing. So we use those techniques as a crutch. When in fact, it's your decision-making process, your influences, how you look at the world, how you interpret a creative brief. That is what makes you you, not the tools that you use. And I can prove it to you. What if I took one of your tools away? Would that mean you're no longer the artist and designer that you think you are? No, you'd find a different way to do it. Because you're a resourceful human being. Because you have a vision in your head, the tools and the technique facilitate you doing things, but if the tools and techniques don't work, you just change them. You can sit here and say, well, I'm not so sure about this. I don't believe this, Chris. Well, let me ask you something. Am I the first person ever to tell you what you just heard? Perhaps you've heard this many times before from different people, said different ways in a different style. Yet there are over 400 people sitting here listening to me say it. And why is that? We know this already. Information is cheap. Everything that you want to know can be found on Google right now. You have to know what to type in to search for it. That's a skill. And most of it you can read, watch, or download for free. Legally, not like in these weird black sites, you know. You can download for free. So why is it then people voluntarily pay people like me money when they can easily find that information elsewhere? And I'll be the first person to tell you. I don't tell you anything unique that you've not heard before. Maybe I do in a different style. Or it could be because you've come to know me, potential like me, and trust me. And so why is it that, at least in our community, more people know about the concepts from the Win Without Pitching Manifesto from me than the author? Why is that? Because I'm out there producing content and teaching 100% transparently without holding anything back. I'm not holding anything back from you today. In fact, some of you will walk away later today saying, man, I should have paid for this. We'll tell you how later, but right? Because here's the thing. When I build a relationship with you, that is what is valuable. Not the things that I say. It's the relationship that is valuable. And so when you hold back your teaching, your frameworks, your tools, your templates, your textures, whatever it is that you do, you're withholding the opportunity of building a strong relationship with someone who could be very instrumental in building your business by recommending you, by buying whatever it is that you do, by hiring you. This is the opportunity you deny for yourself. Nazil is asking this question about the recording. Everybody, you need to know this about how we do things here. When you register for an event that we do, it automatically, as long as you're able to get the email, the fact that you're here today means that you got that email, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to get this link, I don't think. And this is tricky for a lot of people because they think we control internet email servers and spam inbox. We don't. All we can do is send you the link to what we do to the email that you gave us. So if you use a weird account, you're not going to get it. If you haven't added us to your recipients list or added us to your contact cards, there's a chance that you won't see our emails. People complain to me all the time. I don't know how it is that 90% of the people that we send emails to, the same freaking email, they get it, and the 10% of you that don't get it think it's our fault. There's only so much we can do. We put the package in the mail. That's all we can do. After that, it's out of our hands. I promise you, everybody gets the emails. It's getting trapped in your inbox, or because of your account, something is going on. Okay? So it is available, and it will go right to you. It goes to spam, right? So check the spam box. And how can you solve that problem? You just add us to your recipients list, add us to your contacts, and that won't happen. Mark's like, people who think like that should not be here. I won't use that kind of language just yet. But all right. That's as much as I can do. All right, let me go back to sharing this. I got a couple more things, and then I'll answer your questions, all right? What am I doing here? Okay. So when you hold on to your secret sauce, you're holding the ability for people to build a relationship with you, to get to know you. In the positioning and lead generation module, I talk about this a lot. Like if we think about the people who share the most, they tend to be the most known, the best-selling authors, the celebrity fill in the blank, celebrity chef, celebrity architect. They call them Starchitects. because they do a better job than their contemporaries at teaching. That's it. Number 5, the anti-manifesto, and we're just going to stop here, okay? And then I'll do a summary, and we'll get out. No one can do it as well as you can do it. No one. No one in the world. And the client's paid to have you do the work in your very unique signature style. We believe that, right? No one can do it as well as you can. That's why you can't hire anybody, because it won't look the same, and no one's ever as good. They can't do it as fast. They're always missing something. So you got to do all the work yourself. And in fact, since you're so good at doing everything, answer the phone, write the invoice, write the proposals, build a calendar, milestones, set up the project, do the research, cut out the images. No one can do that better than you. So just keep doing it all by yourself. How could this go wrong, everybody? And do we really believe no one in the world can do better than you? Do you really believe that? Are you the Usain Bolt of what you do? Are you the Michael Phelps of what you do? The Michael Jordan? The Mike Tyson? There's a lot of Michaels there. Really? Oh no, I don't really mean that, Chris. I don't mean like I'm the best in the world. Oh, so what are you really saying? It means that for the budget in which I'm getting paid, I can't hire anyone who could do it better than me. Oh, maybe that's the problem. So here's where we fundamentally are different. I charge as much money as possible to give myself as many options as possible to hire whoever I want in the world. I'm pretty good at a lot of things, but I'm not the best at everything. So whenever possible, I would rather hire someone who could do it better than me and make sure that I do my job, which is to manage the client relationship and make sure the creative that we produce, whether it be copywriting, building a website, a logo, whatever, is going to solve the brief because they have a business problem. And no matter who I work with, regardless of their skill or talent, I need to make sure that I'm art directing them to solve a problem. They can do whatever style they want as long as it solves the problem. And what happens then? The work looks really good. The clients are really happy. And they tell more people about this. And I, on the other hand, didn't have to do all the work. I'm happy to share some of the money that I got with other creative people who help to contribute to its success. And in that way, I employ people, the economy moves, and the people who then work for me are able to do the things that they need to do to buy formula for their baby, put food on the table, pay their car insurance, whatever they need to do. I don't need to hold on to all of it. Okay. The anti-manifesto. I have 20 things that I wrote. I don't have 20 things to share with you today. Hopefully, some of the things I'm talking to you about sound just like they do inside your head. But maybe the way it was presented today might be the moment in which you're going to make a different decision about whether or not you want to continue to listen to this voice. Just 5. I have more, but not for today. So let me do a quick summary here, and then we'll answer your questions, okay? All right. So we went over this already, right? So when we charge less, we believe that there's less friction. That makes a lot of sense. When you make it easy to buy, there's less friction. You don't have to sit there and push back and argue with people. So when you charge less, there will be less friction and clients are more likely to say yes. And you'll have to then do it for a lower price. And in order for you to make the same amount of money or the money that you want to make, you have to increase the volume. So higher volume equals more work. And so you'll stay really busy. That makes a lot of sense. So your reputation will grow. And so as your reputation grows, you'll attract more clients. And what was previously stated is you'll attract a lot more clients who want to get a good deal. How do I know this? When you're looking for a good deal right now, what brands come to your mind? You might think Costco. You might think Target. You might think like Marshalls or Ross or any of these brands. Walmart. That's the brand I wanted to say. Walmart, because Walmart is known for low prices. They market and build a multi-billion-dollar company because of that. That's where you go. That is objectively as neutral as possible as I can describe the mindset between charging less. And for a lot of people, this makes sense. They're in agreement 100% there, right? Let's take a look at the opposite end of the spectrum here. So let's see what happens when we charge more. So when we charge more, of course, we're going to get friction because people can't afford what it is that we're doing, or they don't value the problem the way that we see the problem. Meaning, I need a website, it's $10,000. Well, I don't need a website that badly. Like, is that right? So you don't make money on your website? Oh, no, I do. And how much money is at risk if it doesn't work out? Well, probably $200,000. But I don't want to pay anywhere near $10,000. Okay, well, that's your prerogative. Why are you being so difficult, Chris? I didn't realize it was being difficult. I just told you your price. Well, it's not going to work for me. Well, best of luck to you, friend. So it's the exact opposite, right? When you charge more, you increase the friction, and we can understand that. It's totally logical. Clients are more likely to say no. But here's the difference. The price is a barrier for only clients who value what it is that I do. It's designed to get people to say no. This is not a bad outcome. This is the intended outcome. Big difference here. And so that means they have to pay a higher price if they want to work with me. Well, because I'm charging so much money, I need to give them more attention. I got to put more craft into it. I got to put more love into it. So I cannot handle volume now because I'll break the promise. So I can take on less work. I'm actually quite booked up right now. Oh, you want to drop in our podcast? Well, it's a 2-month wait list. Oh, really? Oh my gosh, I better get on that now. When do you need this by? Well, I can't take on any clients for another 4 weeks. I don't know if you can wait. And what does that do? What is the psychological effect of that? Man, this person must be really good that they're booked up and they're going to turn away work. Can't you just take on more work? I could, but I would compromise the work I'm already doing for the clients I'm already engaged in. And if I took your project, I would also defend that time just as vigilantly. Oh, well, that sounds about right, Chris. Like, I hope so, if you can wait. If not, I can refer some people. You do that? Yeah. You know what? Actually, I'll wait. I'll move things around. Wonderful. As soon as you send me a deposit, I'll book the time. And when you're doing lower volume, because you want to put the attention and care, you'll have more time to think, to process, to let ideas germinate, and to develop. And your reputation will grow. This is the person that does really high quality work. They actually won't take on work if it's not a good fit. Can you believe that? And I'm so happy with the results. And good work for good clients that pay you well will attract more clients of the right kind. Now, here's the really interesting thing here. I don't know if you could spot this right away, but there are two things that are similar to both sides. So let's look at it. When you charge more or if you charge less, your reputation will grow and you'll attract more clients. One will attract it in the right direction, and one arguably will attract moving it in the wrong direction. You get to make a decision today. What kind of reputation do you want? As the best in breed, that I'll wait, I'll pay more because you're worth it? Or if you need something quick and fast and dirty, hire this person. They'll just do it. You want to change something? They'll do it. Add more stuff. They'll do it. Maybe they're not so responsive and sometimes the work's a little sloppy, but it's worth it. You save money. So this leads me to this thing. We can get totally different results if we're willing to do one thing. If we're willing to be comfortable in moments around tension and potential conflict. That if we can just be comfortable in the pocket, everything can change. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to avoid any friction. And in doing so, we doom ourselves to be here. I hope that's processing in your brain, in your heart, and your mind right now. I have one final question for you. You've heard me say this before. Wisdom is experience plus reflection. We want to be wise. So we want to learn from our previous experiences, but the way that we learn is we have to think upon them. So what I do here is I give you a prompt. Slightly modified from Michael Bungay's Steinier's framework. When I'm going to fill in the blank for you, think about price and value. Instead of doing a previous behavior, I will do this new thing. And I'm going to stop here because I want you to actually sit down and think about this and write it down. Pen and paper. Put down the keyboard, put on your iPhone, put it down. There's something different about having a tactile experience, holding a pen or pencil, drawing the letter forms that connects your hand to your mind. It is different. When we type on a keyboard, I'm putting up my fingers here. When we type on a keyboard, there's no tactile experience that's coding because this is just pushing. But when we draw the letter R, E, A, and D, over time we understand that to have a certain meaning and a feeling. So today was all about helping you to overcoming your limiting beliefs around money, around price, around value. So I'll read the prompt again. I'm not going to bring it up on screen here. So let me just, where's my screen? Shoot. Okay. When I think about price and value, instead of doing this, whatever you do currently, your old behavior that you want to change, I will, whatever it is that you think you need to do. Each one of us is going to have a different answer. I want you to write it down. And then if you're done already, I want you to read it out loud to yourself. I want you to do this 3 times because you need to reprogram your brain by speaking to your brain differently. And there's a difference between thinking it, speaking it, and writing it. So we just wrote it down. Now we need to speak it so we can hear it in our own mind as if it's coming from another source. When I think about price or value, instead of doing this, I will do this instead. And then you need to save this somewhere. You can cut it out. You can write on a Post-it note, like once you refine what it is, and you just put it in front of your mirror. You put it on your nightstand. You put it everywhere, like I put it on your refrigerator. Same message over and over and over again. We're going to start to reprogram your brain. But like I said, you don't have to believe anything that I'm saying is true. You don't need to know why it works, how it works. You don't need to do any of that. All you need to do is do what I tell you to do. What I tell you to do right now is to ask for more money. Whatever amount you want. To whatever factor you want. Learn to say it with pride, with integrity, to say it emphatically, not to like $450? Don't do that. That's a question that invites an argument. See how it might change your life. And I hope for some of you, in a short period of time, in 3 to 6 months, you're going to come back and you're going to tell me how this one webinar changed your life. I hope so. Okay, Al, before we launch into Q&A, we do need to do some business stuff, right?
Yes.
Or do you want to do Q&A first?
We can, yeah, let's jump into how this relates to the pro group first, I
Okay.
think. Yeah, because I just kind of wanted to share something briefly as well of more of like my personal experience this year, and how the start of this year I basically hired a business mentor, and it's kind of putting into practice everything you've talked about today. Like so much of it, I was like, been there, done that in the last few months, and seen a huge return on basically what I've all my efforts. And so I created a product, and a lot of people put the stress on, you know, what they offer, what services they sell, what products they sell, that kind of stuff. And actually, it's a lot about the belief of just, you know, why you are the right person. And you touched on this earlier of why, you know, a lot of people offer what you offer. You know, a lot of marketplaces are really crazy busy. You have a lot of competition. And that's what people struggle with is, you know, why would someone hire me over someone else? And that is the reason why people want to hire you. You know, it's all about believing why you are the best option for that. And so I started offering a Instagram program, and it was a way bigger price point. I started selling it for a huge price point, way more than I'd ever thought that I could offer. And I really relied on the pro group to help me figure out, you know, why am I the best person? And having the pro group, and if for anyone who doesn't know, the pro group is our online community at the Futur. We have over 600 members right now, and it's massive because at all stages of my process, so when I created the program, when I was figuring out the mindset and how to offer that, and dealing with those red flags of clients that we all get, you know, we all have different issues with our clients. But having that community to go to and actually say, okay, this is what's happening, what do you guys recommend, changed the game for me. You know, it was so valuable because, like you said before, you can Google stuff, but you have to know what to search for. And most of our situations are so personal to us that it's really hard to get those specific answers. And it's like, who do you trust for those answers as well? The pro group has over 600 creative entrepreneurs that have been through similar stuff or other experiences that shine a whole new light on this situation. And so having those people to bounce those ideas off and run through that with has helped me get my first ever over 10K month, which was huge for me this month. And that was just from the start of this year, deciding this is what I'm going to focus on. So 6 months into the year, and I was like, this is it, guys, like it's all happening. So I just wanted to share that because it really summarizes everything that you've talked about today, and bringing it home of, yes, it's about the belief and having that good product or service, but also having that community to help back you up too is a huge game changer.
Congratulations, Elle. I want to teach another
Thank you.
marketing concept here to everybody. It's called the Mrs. Fields concept. Those of you in the United States, you may be familiar with this brand. It's called Mrs. Fields. And Mrs. Fields is a real person, according to the things that I've read. And she was an older woman, and she wanted to sell cookies. And her husband was like, we're not doing this, because she was older. And it's like, well, people say they love my cookies all the time. I want to go sell them. And he had a challenge for her. He said, if you could sell X number of cookies, if I remember the story correctly, then we will start to build this business together. So what did Mrs. Fields do? She went out, she baked a bunch of cookies, and she broke them into small pieces, right? She gave samples. And this is a practice that's done in many industries. They give you a sample. So she went out on the street, and we know how the story worked out. Of course, the samples got people like, wow, this is a really good cookie. I want to buy cookies from you. And that was all the proof that they needed. So one thing that we can do to lower the risk in a client giving us a lot of money is we have to have a sample product. If you go to Costco, there are people at the end caps basically waiting at the end of the aisleway to give you a sample, whatever, a salad mix or sausage or anything, some dessert. They're going to give you a taste. Software companies do this too. They have a free trial version, and it has some of the core benefits of using the product, but not all. And so then there's a pretty high conversion ratio if you do something good in your free trial version versus the paid version. If the free version is this good, the full paid version must be amazing. So each and every single person who's still here and listening to this in replay, think about what your trial sample version is. I'm going to make this make sense in a bit, okay? What is the little bit that you can give to people for free so that they can lower the risk of working with you? For some of you, it would be things like thought leadership. I'm going to create a 20-page resource for doing X, Y, and Z. The top 10 myths that people get wrong about this thing that I do. Here's a framework. Here's an ebook. Here's a 3-part podcast series where I interview billionaires and millionaires or experts in this field, and I just want to give it to you for free. So now they get to know who you are. We decided, Elle and I, to do something very different this month for our open house pro group. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. This is my Mrs. Fields cookie sample, because you're like, where's Chris going with that story? This is what it's like to be in the pro group. I do these 2 coaching calls every single month, sometimes a little extra in the pro group. And Elle said there's 600 people. There's 710 people in it right now, on our way to 1,000 and 2,000, 3,000 people. It's shocking for some people. It's like, Chris, why do you want such a big community? Well, I lose that personal touch and experience. Well, let me just tell you something that I didn't know was going to happen. The larger the community is, the more powerful the individuals become. More resources, more opportunities, and a greater network. Because at some point, we're not there yet. When somebody says, does anyone know who, anyone who does this? Someone in the group will be that person. And we support each other. We lift each other up. So we do things like, for example, when people form a community and a network of friends, when one person posts something, people genuinely, out of the goodness of their own heart, not some forced engagement group, start to interact with their content, to support them, to cheer them on. What does that do for your post? Well, the algorithm thinks there's a lot of people who like this. It'll serve it up more. So if you've ever wondered what it's like to be inside the pro group, you just got a sample of it right now. And the focus that we're doing for this year is to help 100 people make $100,000 who have never broken the $100,000 barrier before. It's called our 100 to 100 program. And if you join, and I hope you do sincerely from the bottom of my heart, I hope you join because I believe it can be life-changing for you, is we're doing a call tomorrow at 8 a.m. on validating your business model. Because a lot of people are still struggling figuring out, what is my value proposition? What is my no-brainer offer? They don't know what it is. Either they put too much value in it and not enough price, or too much price and not enough value. And there's a way to do this. We're going to help solve this problem. Because I also think about the impact I want to make on people's lives. 100 times 100,000, I believe, is $10 million. I believe we can do this. If I have 100 able-bodied people who are willing to do the work, I can help you smash past a $100,000 barrier. No problem. But you have to be willing to do the work. So that takes me to my next thing here. I want to qualify all of you. The pro group is not right for a lot of you because A, you don't have $150 a month, or B, you're not committed to doing the work. So I know when there's a free webinar, all kinds of people come out. That's cool. I appreciate you. No guilt trip. I'm glad that you're here. I really am. For the people who've been thinking about it, what is going to get you to get off that fence? Okay, there's a couple other announcements I want to make. The enrollment period happens the first week of every month. And we've been playing around with this. Sometimes it's 24 hours, sometimes it's 48 hours. So you have 48 hours from this morning. So basically, by the end of day tomorrow, the enrollment period will close and you'll have to wait till next month. And then some of you will say, that's fine, I'll just wait till next month. I'll wait. And then 1 month turns into 2 months to 3 months. What's going to happen to your business? The question I want to pose to you, and I learned this from Cody G, is will the problem that you're having right now get better with more time, or will it get worse with more time? Will it get worse with more time, or will it improve? That's all you have to ask yourself. So if you don't have a problem waiting 30 days, the problem is not going to be, it won't get worse. But if you have a problem waiting 30 days to get a checkup on something that's bothering you, waiting 30 days to repair a car that's making some weird noises, I believe in those two situations, the problem will get worse. That's why people do things called maintenance. So don't have one giant problem. Okay? I got to tell you a couple other things. There's a super exciting announcement here. Is some of you may know who this person is. Vanessa Lau. Vanessa Lau is hosting an open house call. Looking at the schedule here. Where is it? July 8th. It's called Scaling Secrets, How I grew my YouTube channel from 0 to 500,000 with 28 million views in less than 3 years. And I believe Vanessa basically has built a business that does $3 million a year. Don't quote me on that. I heard her speak. I invited her. She was happy to jump in. So that's happening. So the pro call is happening tomorrow on validating your business model. There's goals in business mentoring with Lisa Galea. That's the next day. We have lunch with creatives, sales cohort, and scaling secrets all happening on July 8th. So it's more than just me coaching and teaching, because people keep asking, well, isn't this what you do? And how's this different than YouTube and Instagram? Well, it is different. We have learning tracks. So we have 2 right now. Track number 1 is brand strategy. Track number 2, of course, is the 100 to 100 program, where we're going to try to help you build a $100,000 business this year. Now, half the year is gone already. Literally, we're at the halfway point plus 5 days. So now you only have 6 months to make your $100,000. So maybe the goal is to get you to 50K this year or more with the remaining half. But again, like I said, will your problem go away or will it improve if you keep waiting? I mean, when you talk to me in Q4 of this year and you're trying to make your money, talk about stress and anxiety. Elle, is there anything else we need to tell people?
Yeah, I would just add to that. So you kind of do like an end of year recap as well in the pro group, don't you? And then to start a new year, you talk a lot about goal settings, which is super natural for that time of year. But just because it's midway through 2022 does not mean you need to be putting things off till next year. Like, you can make the decision now to join the pro group and within 3 months see that improvement, right? Like, it's not, nothing's going to change if you are like, oh, maybe I'll do it next month. You know, I've been in the same position where, you know, mentorship can be super expensive. And a lot of people say, oh, I can't afford it for X, Y, and Z. But oftentimes we put value on things that we prioritize. You know, if your iPhone broke tomorrow, would you go and replace it? You know, would you find the money to go and make that happen because you need a phone? And if the answer is yes, it's like, you know, you do have money, you're just prioritizing it in different areas. And it's when you start to prioritize yourself and your business and your goals, that's when you start to see a big difference. You know, I've been in so many positions where I was like, oh, it's a big expense, I'm not ready to make this move yet. But seeing where the last 6 months have taken me, it's because I set those goals and I was like, this is what I want to work towards. I want to be earning over 10K months. And so making that decision and spending money on investing in yourself as well, you know, like it's really hard to do things by yourself. What makes the pro group so good is because you have people like Chris, like other industry experts, subject matter experts that give you this advice. And you can join calls with them every single week, and you can even book one-to-one sessions with them. So you have a 15-minute slot and you can ask them your really super specific questions. Like, where else do you get that kind of access to these industry experts to make sure that yes, you're in a group with other people that you can rely on, but you're still getting super specific advice that's going to really change the game for you. And we see a lot of pro members jump in and they join all the calls, they learn so much. And what really makes the difference is those people that implement the tactics. You can learn every day, but as soon as you start actually implementing that stuff, that's when it's like, whoa, everything changes. You know, like today, we've all joined this webinar. You've listened to everything Chris has said, but you got to take the action. You got to take action to see those results.
Yeah, I have a fancy graphics. I want to show you something real quick. And then I promise we're going to answer the questions. Okay, so let's do this. Here's my fancy graphics. You know, we have this thing called the office hour. So I host 2 calls a month, and all the previous calls from the last 7 years have been archived, indexed, and are available for your consumption. So just think about the vault of content and the learnings that you can have. So if you're interested in brand strategy, I think we have over 10 calls on breaking down the nuance of how we do brand strategy as a design company. But we do these things called office hours, things that we've been talking about, where we invite subject matter experts. So you're going to see some familiar faces. There's the lovely Elle, who will talk to you about all things social media. She just recently crossed the milestone managing the Futures account on Instagram. Congratulations, Elle. Good job. 400,000 followers on Instagram. And what do you think that could do for your business to get that kind of reach? Think about that. And then we have Annalie Hansen, who many of you know. She does the brand strategy stuff for us. And then we have Nidhi Tiwari, who's a licensed clinical social worker, and making sure I don't mess up people too badly. And we do a lot of content together. So we have a variety of voices and people, but the voice that we're missing is you. So some people step up and say, I'm really good at doing X. Can I host a call? Of course you can. But I just want to remind you of the special guests that we have that are coming up. Vanessa Lau is this week, and she's super relatable. And I think from the Grow with Video conference, she was one of the best speakers. And you know who else spoke? Gary Vaynerchuk, the Hormozis, Alex Hormozi and Leah Hormozi, and also Patrick Bet-David, among others. And I thought she just delivered so much value. Her call is happening later this week. So if you miss this window, you'll have to just watch this in replay and you won't be able to interact with her live. Next week, we have Barton Damer, who runs Already Been Chewed out of Texas. Super cool guy. Very generous in terms of what he teaches and how he speaks. We had Sam Horn, who wrote the book Pop and Tung Fu, and among other books. She's also a sought-after TED speaker. And Sam's working on her new book, Talking on Eggshells, which she will be returning to do content with us again. So I hope you're able to participate in that. In a previous call, when Michael Bungay launched his new book, I forget what's it called. Where is this book? How to Begin. He gave our community a super special treat and ran a mini workshop with us. Okay? There's so many cool people just like you from all over the world who are part of this group. And so you're going to find some kinship somewhere in here with someone who thinks, acts like you, or maybe you're looking for a challenge and you want something totally different. And for me, I personally love the fact that people can get together and connect and build really strong relationships. People that I thought in a million years wouldn't even get to know each other. And there they are. It is over 700 people. It's missing one person right now. That person's you. So I hope you join us. Elle, let's answer some questions.
Yeah, so we talked a lot about selling stuff today, you know, products and services. Someone has asked, if they don't have anything to sell, are they still going to find the pro group valuable?
How do you sustain yourself? You don't have anything to sell. Aren't we all selling something? You don't have a service to sell. You don't have a product to sell. You don't have an idea to sell, maybe. I mean, for me right now, the way that we make money really isn't directly related to the things that I do. I produce content. I try and teach people. So I write posts. I make carousels and I record videos. I do webinars just like this. And if I had my way in the world, some really super filthy rich philanthropist would say, Chris, here's $10 million, $100 million for you to just do what you do and do it at scale. Hire whoever you need. I would love that. I would never make another product in my life. That was it. That would be it. I just want to teach. So I would say, like right now, if that sounds like you, maybe I can help you. Maybe I can. I'm not sure. But if you don't have a service or product, maybe the pro group won't add to you unless you just want to watch a couple hundred hours worth of archive calls. We have an option for that too, by the way. So you don't have to join the pro group. If you don't need a community, if you don't want to find out what people are thinking, then you can just have access to the video library. It's half the cost. I believe it's $75. Okay. So Elle, what's the question?
Another one we had is they don't deem themselves as a creative. So are they going to find a lot of benefit in the pro group if they don't think they're a creative?
Very good question. The best way for me to answer this question is this. Have you watched our content before? Do you like the things I'm teaching and saying? Did you feel excluded because you weren't a creative? If the answer is, I have watched your content, I do not feel excluded, then this would not be any different. I, in a previous lifetime, was a graphic designer, creative, a maker of things. I currently feel like in my evolution, this is not what I do anymore. I want to inspire people to change, to give them the resources, the tools that they need to first overcome the limiting beliefs, and then a plan on how to achieve that. So we have accountants, we have coaches, we have architects, we have photographers, videographers, we have all kinds of people. I would say that they're all creative in the way I define creative, but they're not all image makers. So if I've been helpful to you and you like the kind of content that I make, it would not be any different in terms of the kinds of things that I teach. If you want help on marketing or positioning or lead generation or niching down, It is business principles. It's marketing principles. It's sales principles. It's content marketing principles. It's not for hand lettering artists. It's not specifically for wedding photographers. It's for people who run businesses. Okay, next question.
Yeah, Ebru backed that up and said, you don't have to be a creative to benefit. They are a business English coach and they get so much out of it. So, it's not just creative fields. And I feel like creativity is kind of different to everyone. Like, I don't necessarily deem myself as a creative, although I'm in Instagram marketing. So it's kind of like, what you get out of it. But another point was, I'd like to join the pro group, but I'm not good at English. Are there any transcriptions in other languages?
I don't think there are any transcriptions. We do turn on the English transcription, like closed captioning thing, so you can see that. But here's the thing. I know this is a hang up for a lot of people. If you can understand the things that I'm saying, your English is good enough. But you also start to realize there are people from all over the world in the group. People from Singapore, people, I know they speak English in Singapore. That's probably not a great example. South America, Central America, parts of Europe where, like Eastern Europe, we have some people, friends in the Ukraine. And so you may not be as comfortable speaking English. You may find enough people in the group that speak your native language. But my hope is this, is like what I'm encouraging all of you to do is play on the global stage. And the way that you do that is you have to be comfortable speaking English because you have access to more customers. That's it.
And then we have another question basically saying they are broke and they've been stuck for a long time. They've lost hope, totally given up, but they're willing to do whatever it takes to change that situation. So if they borrow money to join the pro group, do we think it's going to change their situation?
Man, that is a tough situation. I don't love this. If you are dead broke and you have to borrow money to get into the group, I'm not comfortable telling you that you should do that. I don't want to take on that responsibility. I believe I can help you, but it might require you to do some work on your own to have some level of income so that this doesn't become like your primary cost in life. I just don't feel good about that, to be honest. Okay. Now, some of you might say, well, I'm going to use my credit card. I'm going to do it and I'm going to invest myself. That's your decision. But I just don't love this idea that you're going to be in debt doing this. Okay. Now, having said that, though, I have financed myself throughout my 25 plus year career as an entrepreneur. When I didn't have money, I made it happen. So, but that's me because I have this killer instinct and I know what I'm capable of doing. And what I needed were a couple of resources or a tool or something. And every time I spend money, the money comes back to me in orders of magnitude greater than what I spent. Like when I buy into a program or a book, I already know I'm going to make 10 times as much as it cost me. But that's because I have a heavy bias towards action. I'm ready to do the work. When I hired my business coach in the first meeting, saved me from a disastrous new business venture. So I stopped doing that. And then within the first year, he helped me to grow from $2.2 million to $3.9 million. Now at the time, hiring him was very expensive because this is like in the early 2000s here. I think it was $2,000 a month that I was paying him to meet with him 4 times for an hour each time. So for 4 hours, I was paying someone $2,000 with no promised results, no frameworks, nothing, just conversation. But as you can see, I am exactly here today because I made that investment back then. And I knew whatever he told me to do, I was just going to do. I was not going to question it. I was just going to do it. And this is one of the reasons why I started doing public speaking and ultimately how I built up enough confidence to build a channel on YouTube. So each person has to answer that question on an individual level. I don't want to push you into do something that you know you can't afford, that you know you're stuck in certain habits and routines, where no matter what you're presented with, you're not going to take action. That will be a waste of money. I would rather you save that money and do something else with it.
Yeah, and on the contrary of that, we do have a massive success story within the pro group from Ali, who he's from the Philippines and he was over $10,000 in debt, which he was saying, especially there, is a crazy amount of debt. And when he found out about the pro group, he said, what's another $150 a month? You know, I'm already so much in debt. What's the worst that could happen? And within a few months, he was well over positive 10K, and he's just continued flying from there. And he's seen so much success in the pro group. He's hosted a success stories with Andres and I, where he shared his whole experience. So if you join the pro group, you get access to all these stories. You can hear about the incredible things that our pro members are up to. You can even host your own as well. If you've had an amazing journey like that, or just want to share your story with the pro group, we welcome that too. But that's just a really nice experience of someone who did take that big risk and saw a big result.
I just want to give a quick shout out to Future Pro members who are on this call. It's so good to see you and to see your support. So some people have been here a while, some are brand new to this. Ashley Ross said she's been in twice. The second time was much better because her mindset was different. She was ready to do the work in ways that she wasn't the first time, whatever that might have been. So Ashley, if you want to join us on this panel, because I just want to ask you what was the difference, feel free to just let us know so that Andres and Elle can bring you up. But I also want to say hi to Aditi, who's been a fan for a long time, finally joined the group and made it happen. She's based out of India, so this I know is a big deal for her. Michael Marlowe has been part of the Future Pro Group, and then a business boot camp graduate, has grown his business. Happy to see you. He's such an ardent supporter. You know, sometimes they can say you can judge a company and a brand by the customers and what they say about you. And Gio's here. He's a Future Pro member. I see him. So he's giving the two hands, the raising hand, raise the roof kind of thing. There's a bunch of people in here. I'm just scrolling through like, wow. So happy to see you all. It just warms my heart to know that you're here and that you're saying such positive things. I appreciate you. And Elle, are we dropping in the link for anybody who's considering joining? Because in the past, we would do that pretty frequently so that anybody wanted to know. It's $150 a month. You have to enroll for a 3-month minimum. So that means you're making a $450 commitment. For some of you, that's just too much. For some of you, like, that's what it's going to take for me to grow and change my life. Then that's the price of entry. We think it's relatively affordable compared to, say, I don't know, a Tony Robbins program or an alt MBA degree or whatever else it is. So let me just quickly break down while we field a few more questions, and I'm going to split a few things so you need to know. There are over 200 calls, so that's about 300 to 400 hours worth of content, all archived, broken down by sections, and then also we're working on annotating all those episodes so you can skip through it. We recently added in a search function so you can just search the topic and it'll find the video for you, and you can just type in as many keywords as you want because there's a transcription for the episodes. And there's the 2 live coaching calls with me. It happens every Wednesday. Some Wednesdays, there's some exceptions, from 8 a.m. to about 9:30 Pacific Standard Time. We do an air meet, which is a super awesome fun thing that we do to welcome all the new members. So you guys will be part of the July cohort. And as part of that cohort, you'll meet your fellow members who join, as well as members that have been as part of the community. We sit at tables, we'll talk. It's super cool, fun experience. People wind up spending hours doing this. Even the introverts start talking. It's kind of crazy, kind of nuts. We have the office hours, which, depending on what week you jump in, can be member user hosted or subject matter experts. We have Annalie Hansen, we have Matthew Essam, we have Elle running those sessions, and others from our team teaching you about what they know how to do, that they're experts in, to help you. You book time, you join, they answer your questions specifically. You hold a 15-minute window. It's pretty awesome since we introduced that. There's a job board. There's a job opportunity right now that I posted recently for a branding identity designer, and they posted somewhere between $80,000 to $120,000. And so I'm not saying that you're going to join and you're going to win that, but I get asked all the time from people, Chris, can you recommend somebody? Chris, do you know anybody? And I post those job opportunities inside the pro group. That's where you have access. One last thing I want to say, many of you catch me on LinkedIn Audio Live, on Twitter Spaces, and used to be on Clubhouse. You're wondering, where did all those calls go? They go in the Future Pro Group. That's our vault. That's our library. So there's some calls where you got like 20% of it, you missed half of it. There's no other way to get it except for to be in part of the pro group. So if that's not enticing enough for you, I don't know what else to tell you. That's all I got. Back over to you, Elle.
Yeah, so we've had a few questions about, if they're not ready to join the pro group today, what's a good backup? So like Chris mentioned with that video archives, we do a video only tier. So it's $75 a month. You get access to all the videos and new ones as they come out. But you are missing out on that community. So, you're paying half the price a month, but you're missing out on joining the calls live as well. So that gives you access to actually asking your specific questions. Like I mentioned earlier, you can book slots. So some of our subject matter experts give you 10 or 15 minutes and you can speak to them directly on the call, which is incredible because you can ask them super specific information about what you need. So yeah, the video archives tier is a good option. I'll post that link there now. So at the bottom, you have 3 options down there. But I would really recommend, the full community group is amazing. The air meet that Chris mentioned before is happening next week too. So if you join the pro group today, you not only get Chris's call tomorrow, you get the Vanessa Lau call this week, you have the Barton Damer call, and you get to join the air meet. So the next 2 weeks are going to be, honestly, you need to join now because it's the perfect time to join.
You have 48 hours to make up your mind, but hopefully if you're considering it, I would encourage you to do it by the end of day today so that you can join us tomorrow. And there's so many people that have joined recently that joined in a weird cycle through the backdoor technique. So they're going to actually see me talk live to them on a Zoom call. It won't be a webinar. We'll be able to see your faces. You'll be able to unmute and talk freely. It's a pretty awesome experience.
Yeah. And I'd just like to add, so Natalie asked, how many are we in the group? And how is it possible to ask those specific questions? So like Chris mentioned, we're over 700 members now.
710.
710. And if you want to ask specific questions, what we do is we post upcoming events. So you'll see the calls that are coming up. And on that event, if the subject matter expert is allowing those slots to ask those questions, it'll give you the 4 or 5 time slots. The calls are usually an hour and a half long. So we can normally fit in 4 or 5 people in there, and you just sign up for a slot. So you comment first. So you just got to be in the group. We look out for those calls and wait to see if you can get on there to join those specific questions.
Yeah, so people have this fear that they're going to join a group with 710 people and they're just going to be one of hundreds. So here's the thing. Whenever I do a live call, on average, it's going to be between 70 to 120 people tuning in live. Not all 710 people join live. So all of a sudden, the group becomes a lot smaller because of schedule conflicts, because the topic or whatever that I'm talking about doesn't appeal to them specifically, and they're totally cool with that. People have different life obligations, so they would rather watch the archive call than to attend live. Live is where we get to interact. In the live session, we're talking to people all the time. And so what we do is we ask people to raise their hand and to submit a comment or question. And then depending on the comment or question, it helps us to sort, like, this seems to represent the group the most. And I'm going to prioritize the people have questions where it's the broadest learning opportunity for the group. That's really important. So somebody's like, hey, how do I fix my logo? That is not the place for it. We actually have a crit area where you can get feedback from other members, not from me specifically. I want to be clear about that. And so when people say, like, here's where I'm stuck, there's a big problem I can't figure out as it relates to this topic, how can you help me? And then we get into it. We might spend 5 minutes with you. We might spend half an hour with you. I don't know. And if you really want one-on-one help and this doesn't work for you and you have the money, you could always book me one-on-one. It's $1,500 an hour, just to let you know. Okay? So that's how we do it. And people are often surprised. Now, here's a really cool thing, too. There's a couple of small things I forgot to mention. When you join the group, you're going to want to download this template. It's a PSD file. It has this little persimmon colored badge. This is what you see people on social media. So it's our way of seeing each other and recognizing, oh, you're a future pro member. And we kind of just open our hearts and our doors to you because there's a level of trust that you've made a commitment that you're part of the community. And so when I'm hosting rooms or social spaces, you'll see, I'll say, welcome pro members. I can see you. I can spot you. I can call you up by name. hopefully shine a little light on you, but also because if you have a question, then you have priority seating in these live audio events. And I think that's really important because I don't want to invite some rando on stage, not sure what their intention is, if they're going to self-promote, if they're going to be long-winded or whatever. And so we prioritize that. Last thing I want to mention is people often wonder, how do I get to be a guest post on your account? Well, I prioritize Future Pro members. Plain and simple. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I do post other people's work, but I'm so busy looking at giving feedback to people that are in the group to post on my feed that I often don't have time to like deal with other people. So my default answer is whenever somebody asks me is like, I prioritize pro members. And if you think, you know, what is 500 new followers worth to you? What is 1,000 new followers on top of what value you're getting? You might say, hey man, that's a tipping point for me. I'm not telling you it's a guarantee. All I'm saying is I prioritize you. I look at the content. I will give you some feedback, and it's up to you to make it work or not. So people like Melanie Whitney, Annalie Hansen, Ivy Malik, Jewel Kim, and others, I've shared their posts because they're pro members, because we support each other that way. Plain and simple. And if you make a really good post and your account is good, you can pick up thousands of new followers, as many people have. I forgot to mention Kezia. Kezia is part of Pick Lou. I shared their posts. All you have to do is scroll back in the timeline. You'll see their posts. Okay. I think that's it, right, Elle?
Yeah, I'd just like to back that point up with, yeah, you shared 2 of my posts. It brought in over 4,000 new followers for me. And on top of that, loads of people interested in wanting to work with me. So like you said, it's not just about the follower metric. It's about what that means to you. And that was a ton of business from that. So that was incredible. And whilst we're here, I would love to shout out some of the new pro members that have joined on the call. So we have Kai, Wanda, Andrea, Julian, and Dan. So thank you guys. So welcome to the pro group. So excited to have you. You'll get all your access info today, and you can join Chris's call tomorrow. It's going to be amazing. So don't forget, everyone, you have 48 hours to join. But if you join today, you get to jump on Chris's call tomorrow. So start your day with Chris again tomorrow, because that's the best way to do it.
I love that. Thank you. I don't know if it's the same person, but is that the wonderful Wanda that I know from Clubhouse? I've been DMing her for some time now. So is that the same? Yes, it is. Wanda, welcome. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. All right. I'm so excited. Okay, everybody. You have 48 hours. That's it. Otherwise, we'll see you again next month. We'll talk about some other topics. But stay tuned, too, because I'm going to go through the rest of my list, not today, obviously, of the 20 things. It's my anti-manifesto, and I hope you enjoyed that format. Please, if you will, as a favor to me, if you enjoyed this conversation, post something on social, tag me. Tell me what you learned. Tell me what you thought was good, because I need the feedback because I want to make this as impactful to you as possible. I did catch a few chat comments that came by because they were flying by so fast, everybody. I saw somebody saying goosebumps. That means a lot to me, but I wanted to know where the goosebumps came from. Like, what was a thing that created a moment for you, that visceral response? I want to know, because obviously I want to do more of that and less of what didn't work. Okay, it's a new format for us. It's a totally contrarian point of way, a contrarian style of teaching, and I think it was effective based on some of the feedback I saw. Elle and Andres, please save the lingering Q&A for me. Export those questions, please, and save the chat for me and field out, just general reactions. Just leave the good bits in there so I can try to use that for additional content creation ideas. On that note, everybody, thank you very much for spending your morning with us, or your afternoon or evening. I do appreciate you. I'm glad that you're here. I hope you got some value from today, and let me know on social, because we'll continue the conversation there. Take care, everybody.
I can always tell when you're lying, girl, you're see-through. All these miles away, yeah, I just wanna see you. Baby, give me good face, she hit me like seafood. Remember when I saw you? Hi, it's nice to meet you. Know my old girl salty, she just wanna be you. I'm a dog, no Monties, I don't wanna leave you. Once you're right here, I just don't wanna mistreat you, no. Cause I've been a douchebag before, baby girl, I don't wanna repeat. She just won't please me, she look in my eyes, told me, why are you bleeding? And I don't even know how to answer. I take these drugs to my bladder. She says she noticed a pattern. She say I look gorgeous, I tell her I'm flattered, but direction. I'm so
Take care, everyone. I'm gonna close the call here.